Hi, welcome back to another one of my end of the year movie lists. A video where I share some of my personal favorite movies of the year and give a slight explanation to each. I know it's been a while since I last posted, almost an exact year ago to the date, but hey, I'm always active on Letterboxd, so if you want to see frequent, sophisticated movie reviews like this one, I suggest you go follow me over there. In 2022, I was able to watch 64 new releases, but of course with every year, I still didn't get to watch everything I wanted to. Here are some of those movies that I missed that could have potentially made it on the list. Those are Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, The Menu, RRR, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That is not a joke. I truly believe in my gut that movie had the potential to make it on this list, so I mention it just in case the fandom gets upset with me. Also, before every list, I also like to give a few shoutouts to movies that I really enjoyed but just barely missed out from being in the top 20. Those are Babylon, Barbarian, X, and The Whale. But now with all that out of the way, here's the first half of my list. Number 20 is The Northman, directed by Robert Eggers. This time Eggers comes out with a more action and fantasy approach, and it's about as epic as you'd expect it to be. A lot of Vikings, blood, and Anya Taylor-Joy. Number 19 is Terrifier 2, directed by Damien Leone. Probably the most brutal a horror movie can get, but it still delivers so much more. It really redefines what a slasher film can be, and it scratches an itch these reboots have not been able to achieve as of late. Number 18 is Pleasure, directed by Ninja Thyberg. An honest and raw look at what it's like for a young woman to break into the porn industry in this day and age. It's really a gut-wrenching watch, and not one I'm sure I'll be able to revisit anytime soon, but it definitely left a big impression. Number 17 is Causeway, directed by Lila Neugebauer. A small and intimate story about two strangers helping each other heal as they talk about their past traumas to one another. I think if you like nice, quiet, soothing indie movies, then this is a must-see. Also, not forget to mention that Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Tyree Henry absolutely kill it in these emotionally heavy roles. Number 16 is Bones and All, directed by Luca Guadagnino, a romance horror film about two teenage cannibals as they fall in love and move from place to place throughout the Midwest. If you're familiar with Luca's other work, then I'm sure you know he's a master of his craft, especially when it comes to romance, so it was really nice to see him apply it to a more horror thriller setting. Number 15 is Glass Onion, directed by Rian Johnson. This is not an easy sequel to pull off, so you really gotta hand it to Rian for being able to come up with another murder mystery story that felt completely new and fresh. It was so good it made Ben Shapiro completely forget what a mystery movie is supposed to be. What a legend. Number 14 is Avatar: The Way of Water, directed by James Cameron. This is another sequel on the list that I felt like had the odds stacked against it, but now I feel like it's much easier to see the vision James Cameron has for the franchise, and I'm fully on board now to see where he takes the story next. Number 13 is The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, and I mean, yeah, it's just Batman. It's probably one of the most interesting interpretations of the Bruce Wayne character, and I really enjoyed this dirtier, grittier Gotham City. Number 12 is Pearl, directed by Ty West. I love what Ty West has been doing with his X series, and I think Pearl was a personal favorite for me. The way this was able to mimic old Hollywood while at the same time being an interesting character study for a murderous psychopath was something I didn't know could be so much fun. Mia Goth certainly is a star. Number 11 is Pinocchio, directed by Guillermo del Toro and Mark Gustafsson. A fable that feels like it's been beat to death so much, especially in the last few years, but Guillermo del Toro finally adds something meaningful and worthwhile to his version that it really feels like you're experiencing it for the first time again. It's the kind of craft and storytelling that pushes stop motion animation to its full potential, and it makes for one of the most emotional stories of the entire year. But that wraps up the first half of my list. Now it's time to get into the top. What sets Top Gun: Maverick apart from many blockbusters is very simple. This man right here. Tom Cruise has proven time and time again he's willing to go as far as it takes to get the shot that he wants. He's a man that truly loves and believes in the movie-going experience, and it really shows us why some films are meant to be seen on the big screen. To preface how much I enjoy this movie, I'm not even a fan of the original Top Gun from the 80s, so I really didn't have much expectations going into this one, but once I got there, I was able to just shut up and take in all the amazing set pieces and stunts they performed for the movie. I mean, the shots in this movie are truly insane. You really gotta give it up for the whole crew for going the extra mile and making the film feel as authentic as possible. There is no CGI when it comes to those flying scenes. They are really in those cockpits going thousands of miles per hour, and you really feel it. There's a certain type of movie magic Top Gun achieves where you become completely immersed in the experience, and there are even moments where I thought, oh my god, this person's about to die for real. Tom Cruise is one of those people that seem adamant on stretching the technology as far as it can go to make each film bigger than the last, and that just goes to show how he really is one of the last true movie stars out there today. 2022 has truly been a really great year in terms of blockbusters, and if Tom Cruise is in it, then you can be sure it won't disappoint. Top Gun Maverick is one of the most fun and energetic movies I've seen in my entire life, so of course I had to put it in the top 10. Number 9 is The Fabelmans, directed by Steven Spielberg. Look, there are a few directors out there today worthy of making their own biopics, and you better believe Steven Spielberg is on the very top of that list. What I love about The Fabelmans is that it's not really an introspective of Spielberg's long and decorated career. He could have easily gone through his greatest hits, but instead he decided to make a really sweet coming-of-age film, exploring his childhood and how his love of filmmaking came to be, along with observing his relationship with his family. It's not even a movie where you have to be super familiar with Spielberg's career or filmmaking to appreciate it. Spielberg really knew how to make the feeling seem universal, because at the core of this movie you have themes like broken homes, the anxieties of growing up, and having the ability to escape through something you love. It's a really sweet and personal story I feel like most would be able to relate to, and as a 21-year-old myself trying to figure out my shit, yeah, this movie spoke to me on several different layers. It's a deeply moving story that's elevated through Spielberg's sharp directing and wonderful performances, especially by Michelle Williams and Gabriel LaBelle. Talk about a breakout performance. Number 8 is After Yang, directed by Kogo Nada. I've always found Kogo Nada's work to be deeply moving because of its focus on subliminal things. I mean, the man made one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, and it was based around architecture in Indiana. After Yang may not take place anywhere in modern day, but it's still a really beautiful story that has one of the most honest and raw depictions of grief. The story centers around Yang, a family's android that malfunctions very early on in the movie, and when they discover that he might not be repairable, suddenly it has them all analyzing their final moments with him and realizing that there might be more to him than just being an older sibling to their daughter. The absence of Yang only becomes stronger throughout the movie because of a series of memories Jake gets to witness for the first time, and you get to see the wonder and appreciation for life Yang had. So much so that Jake has to investigate this whole new person he never truly got to know. Colin Farrell's performance really sells this movie too, because you really get to feel this character try and digest all the new discoveries he makes and try to come to terms with losing someone more special than he could have known. It's a great movie to get you a nice little crying sesh too, and it doesn't really help that there's a Mitski cover song in here. Kogo Nada knew exactly what he was doing. On a slightly brighter note, The Banshees of Inisherin has to be one of the funniest dark comedies about loneliness and art that I have ever seen. The movie is about one guy not being able to accept that his friend doesn't want anything to do with him anymore, and yeah, it's a hilarious movie that's able to navigate through such sad themes through Patriarch's desperate attempts to get his friend back. I just talked about how great Colin Farrell's subtle performance in After Yang was, and here he is again delivering another great performance that'll make you laugh along with the crying you might be doing also. The script here is so nice and tight that it really doesn't leave you any room to be bored. Martin McDonagh does a really great job at delivering sharp dialogue and characters that feel so real. Every character's motivation in this film is based on a feeling so obscure. It's amazing how accurately he was able to capture them all and also bring a nice comedic levity to it as well. It's each character's intrusive thoughts that make the story feel so petty, but their choices to keep going and going until they eventually get close to the point of destroying each other made for one of the funniest and bittersweet movies I saw all year.
If you're here, then you already know who she is. Lydia Tarr is many things.
Tar is not an easy movie for me to talk about, and I don't even mean that because I only got to see it the one time, or the fact that a mouse ran under my chair during this particular screening, although the fact that I still managed to finish the movie should speak to just how good it is. Tar is just a weird and unsettling movie where you just get to watch the character of Lydia Tarr ride this wave of power and narcissism and wait for it all to come crashing down. I know that may seem like a vague description, but it's really a character study in which you have to observe every interaction and figure out just how deranged a person like this can be. Lydia Tarr almost reminds me of Terrence Fletcher in a way, because both films center around a similar topic, and the way both characters can flip a switch and be so demanding when the scene requires them to is pretty scary to watch unfold. It's a subtle but eruptive performance about how a person like this could fare in today's world, and Cate Blanchett really dominates this role. Maybe it's too soon to predict this Oscar win, but I think she might have it in the bag. Number 5 is Decision to Leave, directed by Park Chan-wook. This was my first film of his, and I can already understand the brilliance and high reputation the man has, because this movie threw me for a loop. Decision to Leave is a crime thriller about a cop falling in love with a murder suspect, and it's one of the most puzzling and sweet love stories I've ever seen in my life. This movie has a real Hitchcock element to it where you don't really see where it's going, but once you hit that point, it throws another 2 curveballs at you and keeps you going for another half an hour. Normally with detective movies like this, it's natural for you to try and get ahead of the story and try to figure out by yourself, but the editing here feels so fast and energetic it's hard to keep up with all the information that's being given to you. I know that doesn't sound like it'd be a compliment, but I swear I mean it in the best way possible. This cop is so madly in love with this woman that she completely has him wrapped around her finger and has him slipping at his own job. It's a cat and mouse game that's so enthralling from start to finish, and all the scenes they share together might be some of the most romantic of all year. It's definitely strange, but it works. There are some scenes here that will completely destroy you, and by the time you reach the end, you'll realize that you still got played. I've seen this movie twice now, and I don't think I've even come close to soaking in every detail. Usually it's never really a good sign if you're handed a barf bag before a movie, but I think Triangle of Sadness might be the only fair exception in this case. Lately it feels like we've gotten so many projects about eating the rich and being a satire of the wealthy class. This year alone we've gotten projects like The Menu, Glass Onion, and White Lotus, but I would say Ruben Östlund had my favorite tackling of the subject. To me, Triangle of Sadness perfectly captured the divide between the working class and the enormously rich. You simply put both on a crashing yacht and see how much can go wrong in so little time. It's a movie that functions so well as a comedy because in reality the predicament everyone puts themselves in is really their own faults, and when money begins to not become an issue, the rich still try to find a way to buy themselves out. I really love Woody Harrelson's character in this movie, by the way, because although he may not be in the movie much, he serves as the audience viewpoint and he's simply great for all the reactions in this movie. Yeah, I'd understand if some would find this movie to run a little longer than it should, but personally I loved every minute of it, and I think its commentary on social class are on the levels of Parasite. Crazy statement to make, but I stand by it.
Okay, whatever you think about doing, don't do it.
Of course this movie was going to make it on the list. First of all, it's hard to even try and imagine how a movie like this even got made in the first place. Usually ideas this creative and bold are dead on arrival because how can you even begin to market something like this? I think this movie also goes to show how amazing of a production company A24 is. They really roll the dice on projects that wouldn't get funded anywhere else, and this just so happens to be their biggest success yet. It makes sense why Everything Everywhere All at Once was the film to really connect with audiences. It's truly got everything you can think of wrapped up in this tiny little movie about a woman trying to pay her taxes. It's not often that you're gonna see a multiverse movie that includes butt plugs, projectile Pomeranians, talking raccoons, and so much more under one roof. There are extensive fighting scenes in this movie, and they are so impressively choreographed. It's got that Scott Pilgrim choreography where everything feels so fluid and satisfying. It's amazing how much this movie was able to do and not fuck up. But like I said, it's no secret why this movie connected with audiences, because under all those gags and silly moments, it's really a sweet movie that traces back to broken relationships and finding your inner happiness. Just think of It's a Wonderful Life but make it a million times more awesome. I mean, this movie made a scene with rocks feel like one of the most emotional things all year, so I think they were definitely doing something right here. This is also driven home by some energetically fun performances from Michelle Yeoh, Ke Huy Quan, and Stephanie Hsu. Truly breakthrough performances from everyone. It's not often that Jackie Chan being replaced is a good thing, but we'll make an exception here because this was phenomenal casting. Oh, and did I mention that this entire movie was editing using Adobe software? The software I'm literally using right now for my video. I mean, I rest my case.
I went back and scrubbed through the footage, and that cloud has been right there, at least since I set the cameras up.
Yeah, now you mention it. I'll probably be looking at the same damn cloud every day for the last 6 months.
I think at this point I've watched Nope about 4 times and it has not gone stale once. What Jordan Peele was able to pull off here feels so triumphant in terms of a good summer blockbuster. I mean, watching this really reminded me of the best parts of directors like Spielberg and M. Night Shyamalan. It's a movie that perfectly grasps the grand scope of itself while also being able to deliver a slow and suspenseful horror that doesn't get lost within itself. Nope is a movie that drives on an unsettling atmosphere and doesn't even need to include a glimpse of Jean Jacket, but when they do, it really counts. And of course, none of this would be possible without Jordan Peele's amazing script, a phenomenal score, and quite literally the perfect casting. I mean, Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya are obviously great, but I also feel like Brandon Pereira and Michael Wincott give a great balance to the movie and are able to shift the tone easily if they'd like to. I think you could give Michael Wincott just about any line to say and he could make it sound intimidating as hell. All in all, if you're a horror fan and you still haven't seen Nope yet, then what are you even doing at this point? It's got tension, it's got scares, it's got mystery so dense that you could get lost in it for days, and the ending? My god, my favorite third act of the year by far.
I love you.
Love you.
Yep, maybe this is obvious to some, but After Sun was far and away my favorite movie of 2022. Despite all the great things all the movies on my list have done, there's a very specific and somber feeling After Sun is able to capture that it hasn't been able to leave my mind since I got to see it for the first time. After Sun is a movie told primarily through memories and flashbacks about a vacation a father and daughter shared. You really don't know what to expect until the movie hits you with some strange and puzzling scenes that it slowly begins to unravel a dark and unsettling truth about the entire memory. It's both beautiful and somber because on one hand you have this nice trip where Sophie can just be a kid and she gets to bond with her dad, but at the same time he's got stuff going on that a kid probably wouldn't understand in that moment of time until much later. To top off the experience even further, Charlotte Wells based the entire film on a real trip she took with her dad, which makes sense because every scene and moment in this film feels so organic and real that you can almost taste the air. The way Caleb's pain is revealed through these small windows of isolation really give the film a whole new meaning and puts a bigger emphasis on moments where you can find happiness. Moments like that can really be burned into your memory, and the movie does a really great job at giving you that insight where you feel like you might actually understand what a person was going through during a given time. There's been a lot of sad themes in 2022, but what makes After Sun stick with you for so long is you're able to put these clues together without there ever being a piece of dialogue addressing it. It's truly a one-of-a-kind experience I've gotten from cinema this year, and yeah, it'll fuck you up pretty good. But that's gonna wrap up this year's list. Thank you so much for watching. I think 2022 was a really great year for film, so I really want to get this list out even if it was super late, but better late than never. Of course, if you want to see all the films I watched in 2022 ranked, then I'll leave a link to that in the description along with my Letterboxd profile. Also, I'd love to hear about any movies you loved in 2022, so feel free to drop those in the comments. But again, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully this time I won't be gone for another year, so maybe I'll see you soon.